So for the first time ever, Samsung included a in-display privacy option on their brand new Galaxy S26 Ultra. It also has the anti-reflective coating on there too. And because of that, it's important you choose the right screen protector for your phone, because if you don't, you will lose the anti-reflectiveness of your phone screen. This video does all the hard work for you. I've handpicked some of the best brands that you can buy to date, and I've gone through and thoroughly tested each one for installation, fit and feel, durability, whether or not they have an anti-reflective coating, how well it works with the in-display fingerprint sensor, and how they affect the new privacy option. And at the end of this video, I'll let you know which one of these screen protectors I would recommend the most and are worthy enough to be on my personal phone. Also, don't forget about the timestamps and product links in the video description. So let's get into it. And really quick, I just want to let you know that before I do any installation, I will thoroughly clean off the screen with an alcohol wipe and dry it off. So I'm not going to show it to you for every single installation. And then here we have the TORRAS Origarmor tempered glass screen protector. This screen protector is clear. It's got an anti-reflective coating. It's got a 3D curve that goes from edge to edge, and it's also got a soft, smooth glass feel. Inside the box, we get a installation guide, we get our installation packet, and we get one tempered glass screen protector. So the first thing you need to do is take your tray, set it up whichever way you want it, but either way, this is going to be the top. Take your phone, make sure that the camera lenses go into this little hole here, and we'll just kind of rest it into the guide just like that. Then you're going to clean your screen thoroughly with the alcohol wipe, then dry it off. Then remove dust with the dust sticker. Then take your screen protector, making sure all the installation instructions are facing upwards and the left and the right holes are lined up with the left and the right tabs here. You're going to place those over those tabs, pull down just like that, let it rest, and then we're going to pull these tabs down here and we're going to pull them over the little clips, and you should hear a little click. There's one, there's two. Flip over the roller, hold the guide on the sides with one hand gently, and we're going to pull out the little tab with your other hand. Then hold the guide with your other hand, push down the roller all the way down to the bottom. It stops, and then roll it all the way back. Then you can lift up on the top protector, and you're all set. We'll take a look. So installation's super easy. I don't see any bubbles. I don't see any lifting whatsoever. You can see that it's perfectly aligned on the screen here. Again, no bubbles, no lifting. There is a slight gap all the way around the screen for case compatibility. And it looks like it almost comes right up to the edge. The edges are also rounded off. Very nice. Screen feels nice and smooth, just like the glass that's on the phone. It also does cover your front camera, so we'll test out our selfie camera to see how well that works. You can see the screen is nice and crystal clear as well. So now let's test out our selfie camera really quick. And we'll do our fingerprints. You can see again, touch is working beautifully. No issues there. Test out our camera. Camera looks nice and clear, so there shouldn't be any issues taking any selfies. So now let's register our fingerprints and we'll do our facial recognition. Make sure that is working perfectly fine. So we'll do our facial recognition first. Okay, then we'll do our fingerprints. Seems to be registering the fingerprints perfectly, no issues. All right, so we're done there. And let's test out our facial recognition. Face ID is working fine. And no issues there. Now we'll test out our fingerprints. I'm not going to look at the camera, so it's not going to be picking up my face. So we'll do our fingerprints here. And fingerprints seem to be working just fine. See if I can do it without the screen on. Yep, no issues. Do it again. Yeah. Just got to put your finger in the right spot. It's hard to see. Yeah, so fingerprints seem to be working perfectly fine. Facial recognition working perfectly fine. Now let's see how well it rejects fingerprints. And it seems to do a really good job. I see very minimal smudges on the screen. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's like no smudges at all. Or very minimal kind of right there on the side. So it seems to do a really good job at keeping down those fingerprints as well. Let's test out our S Pen. S Pen working great. There is a slight bit of resistance. It's not horrible, but I think it actually makes the writing experience a little better because it's more accurate. It doesn't just slide across the screen. Yeah, not bad. So S Pen working perfectly fine, and there's no markings or anything from the S Pen on the screen either. And if we take a look at the edges of the screen protector, you can see that there's only very minor light bleed coming through. So the alignment is pretty good. And here's a comparison between the TORRAS Origarmor and the original S26 Ultra screen. So it'll give you some idea of how good the anti-reflective coating is versus the one that came with the phone. And now let's test out the privacy controls on the phone. So I've turned on max privacy right now. You can see the screen still clear, but if I turn it to the side, you can see that the screen actually ends up disappearing. So you can still use the privacy controls even with this screen protector. And it also works up and down as well. That is so cool. So left and right and up and down. That is so cool. So if you still want to use your privacy controls, you don't have to worry about the screen protector interfering with that as well. And then let's test out the case compatibility with the TORRAS Q3 Air. Let's wipe off the screen real quick and we'll take a look. So it looks like this case fits the screen protector perfectly. You can see that there aren't really any gaps around the screen, which is good because that's less place for dust and dirt to collect. No lifting, no bubbles. Perfect. So if you're going to get the TORRAS case, I would definitely recommend picking up the screen protector as well because it fits the case perfectly. So everything's looking great for the screen protector so far. So let's test out the durability with the drop and a scratch test. So for this year's drop test, I'm going to do things a little bit different in an effort to get a more accurate result. So instead of starting off at 2 feet, we're going to start off at 4 feet across the board. So for every screen protector, we'll start off at 4. If the screen protector doesn't crack, we'll move to a different quadrant of the screen protector to get a fresh hit instead of hitting the same spot over and over again, and we'll go up to 8 feet. So here we go, starting off at 4 feet. All right, it did not crack, so we'll move on to a different quadrant. Moving on to 5 feet. And it did crack. So 5 feet. All right, so this screen protector lasts up until a 5-foot drop. You can see that we had the 4 foot in the middle and it cracked at 5. So now let's move on to the scratch test. So regular tempered glass starts to scratch at a Mohs hardness number 6. So we're going to start off our test with a number 5. And we'll move on to a number 6. And then finally a number 7. And if we take a closer look, you can see that there are no scratches at the number 5. There are slight at a number 6 and about the same at a number 7. So scratch resistance is pretty standard for tempered glass. Sorry about that. So installation for the screen protector was super easy. You saw that it came perfectly aligned and there was no bubbles or lifting anywhere on the screen. It seems to do a pretty good job at keeping down those fingerprints. It works perfectly fine with the S Pen and the fingerprint sensor. It also does seem to be case friendly. It lasted up until a 5-foot drop, and scratch resistance is standard for tempered glass. And then here we have the FLOLAB ONETIME Pro. This tempered glass screen protector has an anti-reflective coating, which is most important because your phone comes with an anti-reflective coating, and if your screen protector doesn't have that, you lose that feature. It also has polar spectra to eliminate the rainbow. It's got an oleophobic coating, an infinity edge-to-edge screen, and the screen protector also comes with a lifetime warranty. And it's also got a very easy installation. So we get one tempered glass screen protector with an installation guide, a squeegee, and an installation packet. Then take your giant dust sticker. We're going to put this over our phone. I just took off one edge and kind of let the other piece or the other side just roll out over your phone. Then take your screen protector with the installation guide, making sure where it says top is going towards the camera on your phone. Going to peel off our dust sticker, place this over the top of your phone and just press it into place like that. Then hold down on the guide with one hand and pull out the tab with the other. We're going to wait 30 seconds for the screen protector to adhere to your phone. Don't press your finger down in the middle unless the screen protector kind of needs help adhering to your phone screen. You can see it kind of starting to adhere to the screen here. If it stops at any time, you can help it along by very slowly kind of sliding your finger up the middle and just kind of helping it along to slide or to adhere to your phone screen. Just kind of slowly slide your finger up along with the screen protector. Then once that's done, we're going to lift up on the protector and remove the top layer. And if we take a closer look at the screen, I think that was a pretty good, perfect installation. I don't see any bubbles, no lifting. This is also a full coverage screen protector, so it does cover your front camera. There is also a slight gap all the way around the phone for case compatibility. We do have a slight little piece in the corner here, so I'm just going to use my squeegee to kind of help that out a little bit. That's really the only thing I saw with this screen protector. And you can kind of run it down the edges just to make sure that it's down all the way. Now, as far as the edges, they are nice and rounded off. Touch, super smooth, just like the glass that's on the phone. As far as picking up fingerprints, it does pick up some smudges on the screen here, but because of the oleophobic coating, you should very easily be able to wipe those away with minimal effort, and you can. So I already have my fingerprints registered inside the device, so let's see if they still work. Yep, working perfectly fine, and it's nice and fast too. Very nice. All right, let's test out our facial recognition. Yep, facial recognition working pretty quick. Yeah, no problems there. You can see the screen is crystal clear. Touch working perfectly fine, no issues. Let's take a look at our camera. Front camera looks nice and clear, no problems there. Now while we're here, let's look at the alignment of the screen. And as you can see all the corners of the camera. So the screen protector shouldn't be covering any part of your screen. And let's take a look at our edge bleed or fit. So if you take a look at the corner here. And there's maybe just a ever so slight bit of edge bleed, like the lightest bit. It's really even hard for me to tell if it's even there. I mean, it looks pretty perfectly aligned to me. Now let's take a look at the screen as if we're looking at it through polarized sunglasses. And you can see that there is no rainbow effect. So if you're using polarized sunglasses, you don't have to worry about that annoying rainbow. Let's test out our S Pen. And the S Pen's working perfectly fine with the screen here. No issues, just a slight bit of resistance. No problems with the S Pen. Now let's take a look at our privacy display. See how that looks with the anti-reflective coating. So you can see the screen here, and then if we turn it, it just kind of disappears. So that's so cool. So privacy display is working perfectly fine with the screen protector. We'll turn that off. And then here is a side-by-side comparison of how good FLOLAB's anti-reflective coating is versus the one that actually comes on the Galaxy S26 Ultra. You can see how light the reflection is and how easily you can still see the screen. I'll turn the screen off here, and this is what it looks like dark. You can see how it actually darkens down the LEDs, so you can see the screen so much better. Now let's put our phone inside of our case to check out the case compatibility. And if we take a close look, there is a gap on the bottom and the top of the screen, and only a very slight gap on the edges. So the screen protector should be compatible with most cases. You can see there's no lifting, no bubbles. It just seems to fit perfectly. And then let's install the rear camera protectors. Here I have the silver. Very easy installation again. All you need to do is hold it the way that your lenses are lined up on the back of the camera. So it's going to be just like this. We need to make sure that we thoroughly clean off our lenses because we don't want any fingerprints or anything to be trapped underneath. Then just dry them off thoroughly. Then just peel off the bottom sticker, making sure that you don't touch any of the camera lenses underneath. And just take this whole thing and we're going to press it over the top of our lenses and just press them into place. Then lift up on the guide and all the lenses should come out very easily. Now don't throw this away because this little piece right here helps to remove these lenses if you need. You just kind of put them underneath the lens like this, and then you can just kind of pop each one of them off. So we'll take a look. I think it looks pretty nice. Doesn't add a lot of extra bulk to the lenses either. This also does come in a couple different colors. I got the silver and the black here. And they're also tempered glass, so they should be scratch resistant up to a certain point, which we will be testing out, but I think that looks pretty good. Now, the only thing you have to keep in mind is when you're putting a case on your phone, the case has to be able to accommodate the extra thickness of these lenses. So if you have a case like this with the big cutout, it should work perfectly fine. But if you've got maybe the DBRAND tank, it probably won't fit in here because these are like really cut out perfectly for these lenses, but we'll test it out in just a minute. So again, I think that looks pretty nice. So now your lenses are protected. And again, we'll put this in our case. So this case fits these camera lenses perfectly. Like I said, there's extra room to accommodate the extra thickness of these camera protectors. I think that looks pretty good. And that actually comes up a little bit past the raised edge on the back of the case itself. So let's test out the tank case now. So they do seem to actually fit. I had to like force fit it, but it does seem to fit it perfectly. So again, you're just gonna have to try it out with whatever case you have, but just keep in mind if it's more tight like this, there's a greater chance of it not fitting versus you having a case that has a large cutout like this. But for the DBRAND tank, it actually seems to fit perfectly fine. Now, when I try to take this case off, it might take the camera lenses with it because it is on there so tight. And let's see what happens with that. And it didn't. Okay, so they're still on there. Very nice. So if you happen to be using the tank case or, a limitless case like this, you don't have to worry about your camera lenses cutting off or fitting. So everything's looking good for the screen protector so far, so now let's test out the durability with a drop and a scratch test. Alright, so we're going to be starting off our test by dropping a 2.4 ounce steel metal ball at a starting height of 4 feet. If the screen protector doesn't crack, we'll move it up foot by foot until it eventually does. So here we go, 4 feet. Moving on to 5 feet. 6 feet. 7 feet. 8 feet. So we've made it up to the 8-foot mark. Let's try for 9. 9 feet. Still no cracks. So this screen protector withstood a 9-foot ball drop test. That is insane. And because it has an anti-reflective coating, that makes it one of the best screen protectors that I've tested so far. And with that said, let's move on to the scratch test. So regular tempered glass starts to scratch at a Mohs hardness number 6. So we're going to start off our test with a number 5. Then we'll move on to number 6. And then finally a number 7. And if we take a closer look at the screen here, you can see that there are no scratches at the number 5. There are very light at the number 6, if I could even get those to show, and just a little bit deeper at a number 7. So scratch resistance, even though it is standard for tempered glass, it seems to be a lot lighter than regular tempered glass as well. So installation for the screen protector was pretty easy. It also does seem to be case friendly. It's got a really good anti-reflective coating. It works perfectly fine with in-display fingerprint sensor and the S Pen. It still didn't crack even after a 9-foot ball drop. And even though it still scratches at a Mohs number 6, it's very light. So I would venture to say it's a little bit better than regular tempered glass. And then let's test out the scratch resistance of the rear camera protectors. So again, we're going to start off with the number 5. Then we'll move on to a number 6. And then finally a number 7. And if we take a closer look, you can see that there are no scratches at the number 5. I can't really even see any at a number 6 if they are there. I mean, I can't see it. I can't. Well, actually, maybe, I don't know. It's, if they're there, they're so, well, there they are. They're just super light. So very, very light scratches at a number 6 and a little bit deeper at a number 7. And then here we have a clear tempered glass screen protector by AMFILM. So we get 2 clear tempered glass screen protectors, some installation wipes, and 2 rear camera protectors. Then take one of your screen protectors, peel off the protector on the back. Place the screen protector down over your phone as flat as you can, making sure that the camera cutout is over the camera on your phone. Then press down on the center of the screen up and down a couple times. Wait like 30 seconds, then lift off the guide on the top of your phone. And we'll take a look at our screen protector. So it does look like we have a bubble right here. And the bubble is in the best possible spot because it's right on the edge of the glass. So what I would recommend doing is either using a credit card, something plastic. If you have a squeegee like I do here, you can use this, or you can also try your finger. I would definitely try to use a plastic credit card first. All you need to do is just simply press the bubble out towards the edge of the screen and it should disappear. Just wipe down the edges of the screen protector to make sure it's adhered really good. Then we'll take a look at our screen. So installation was pretty easy. It looks like the edges are rounded off and there is a slight gap all the way around the phone. It's not a big gap, but it's there. We'll test out the case compatibility in just a minute. We also do have a cutout for our camera, so you don't have to worry about your facial recognition or your selfies. The screen is nice and smooth, just like the glass that's on the phone. You can also see that there is no anti-glare. As far as keeping down fingerprints, it does seem to show some smudges on the screen, but you should, yeah, they very easily wipe away. No issues there. So let's test out our fingerprints. Now I've already registered my fingerprints once. Let's see if they still work on the phone. And that did. Works fine. I was just not putting my thumb in the right spot. That's why I press on the screen so you can see exactly where it's supposed to go. But when I do that, it seems to work fine. Yep, no issues there. Yeah, so if you are having trouble with your fingerprint sensor, just go in, re-register your fingerprints, and I would suggest turning up the touch sensitivity on your display as well. You can also see that the screen is nice and clear, touch working beautifully, no issues there. Now let's take a look at the screen as if we're looking at it through polarized sunglasses. And you can see that there is no rainbow. That's pretty interesting. No rainbow effects this year so far. I'm pretty impressed. That's pretty nice, because if you ever use polarized sunglasses, typically you'll see like a rainbow. Sometimes it's really bad. It's not very easy to look at, but so far you can see the screen crystal clear. Let's check out our S Pen. So there is a bit of resistance when using the S Pen, but it does seem to be working perfectly fine without any issues. Now let's take a look at the alignment of our screen here. And if we take a look at the corners of the camera, you can see each one of the corners on the screen. So that tells me that it's not covering any part of the screen. And then we'll take a look at some screen bleed on the side here to see if there's any issues. And I really can't tell if there's any bleed. There might be just a slight bit, maybe not. Yeah, well, there's just a tiny bit. I'm sorry. It's hard to see because it's so small. So you really don't have to worry about that, especially if you're going to have your phone inside of your case. Now let's put our phone inside of our case here. Take a look. And there's still a slight gap on the bottom of this case. But on the edges and on the top, it seems to come right up to the edge of the case. And I don't see any bubbles. I don't see any lifting. So this case, the screen protector should be compatible with most cases, but again, there's always going to be that one case out there that it might not be compatible with. You're just going to have to try it. I personally like when there's no gap because that's just a place for little dust and dirt to collect. And then let's test out the privacy display. So I'm going to turn it on max here. And if we take a look at our screen from the side, you can see that the privacy screen is still working perfectly fine. So that's definitely a plus there too. Now let's install the cameras on the back here. So again, wipe off your lenses really good, then dry them off. Then take your camera protector. It doesn't matter which way you put it on because it's the same either way. Just press this over the top of your lenses. And we'll give it a wipe down. All right, so let's take a look at our phone here, and you can see that it does add a little bit of extra bulk to the camera lenses. It kind of makes it look like it's all one piece. And another thing you need to keep in mind is the type of case you're going to be using if you're going to be using the camera protectors. This case right here will not fit because it's just too thick. This case is made for the smaller camera cutouts. So you're really going to have to be mindful about the case you use. You might want to use a case that has like a larger cutout here. Let's even see if this works. And this does, it seems to fit perfectly fine. This is the mouse limitless case. And you can see the camera lens comes like right up to the edge of the camera protector and it fits perfectly in there. So The case that you're going to need to probably get to use with this is going to be a larger cutout, just like this case. But it seems to fit perfectly. It looks pretty cool. As far as fingerprints, again, it does show some smudges on the screen. I don't know if you guys can see that there. But again, they do wipe away pretty easily. So everything's looking good for the screen protector so far. Now let's test out the durability with a drop and scratch test. All right, we're going to start off our drop test at 4 feet. Moving on to 5 feet. Nice. 6 feet. 7 feet. 7 feet. So I am pretty impressed. So far, this is the first screen protector that has lasted up to a 7-foot drop. Now let's move on to the scratch test. Regular tempered glass starts to scratch at a Mohs hardness number 6, so we're going to start off our test with a number 5. Then we'll move on to a number 6, and then finally a number 7. And if we take a closer look, you can see that there are no scratches at the number 5. There are slight at a number 6 and about the same at a number 7. So scratch resistance is standard for tempered glass. So installation for the screen protector was pretty easy. It also does seem to be case friendly. It works perfectly fine with the in-display fingerprint sensor and the privacy screen. The only thing is it does not have an anti-reflective coating, but it lasted up until a 7-foot drop, and scratch resistance is standard for tempered glass. Now let's test out the scratch resistance of the rear camera protectors. Again, we're going to start off with a number 5. Then a number 6. I can already feel it scratching. And then a number 7. And if we take a closer look, you can see that there are no scratches at the number 5. There are ever so slight at the number 6 and about the same at a number 7. So scratch resistance for the rear camera protectors is standard for tempered glass. And then here we have the SPIGEN GLAStR Easy Fit Pro. This screen protector says that it has 10H plus hardness. We're going to test that out with the scratch and drop test. It's got an oleophobic coating to help keep down fingerprints, and it should work with the in-display fingerprint sensor. But this screen protector does not have an anti-reflective coating. So we get 2 clear tempered glass screen protectors, an installation squeegee with a little installation pad, and some installation wipes. So first we need to put our phone down on our little anti-slip pad here. Use the dust sticker to remove any dust. Then take your screen protector, making sure where it says top is going towards the camera on your phone. We're just going to press this down over the top of our phone like that. Then you're going to hold on to the sides of the guide with one hand and pull out the little tab from the other side. Run your finger down the middle a few times and then wait 30 seconds. Then we need to hold down on the guide and remove this little sticker from the middle. Remove the guide and then peel off the top protector. You can also remove this little sticker as well here. And if we do have any bubbles, which it does look like we do in the little corner here, you can use the squeegee to try to squeegee that out. And then also run the squeegee up the edges of the phone just to make sure that the screen protector is down on the phone. We don't want any bubbles. And then we're done. So let's take a look at our screen here. Installation was pretty easy. There is a gap around the edge of the phone for case compatibility, which we will be testing out. The edges are also rounded off. The screen is nice and smooth, just like the glass that's on the phone. Let's test out our facial recognition. Wow, that worked out fast. Let's test it one more time. Facial recognition works out fine, and we can take a look at our screen here for selfies. Screen looks nice and clear. Don't see any issues there. Let's test out how well it keeps down fingerprints. And it does seem to pick up some fingerprints even regardless of the oleophobic coating. You can see those on the screen here, but we should be able to very easily wipe those away, and we can. So no problems there. Now let's test out our fingerprint sensor. I've already registered my fingerprints. I just want to see if they still work. So get our fingerprint here. And it does not seem to be working. So if that's the case, just go in and redo your fingerprints, which I'll do right now. All right, so now we're going to register our fingerprints again. All right, so they are registered. So let's test it out again. And it seems to be working okay. Let's just test it one more time. Just to show you, the facial recognition is not working right now because I'm not looking at the phone. It's facing up towards the screen. So I'm purely just using my fingerprints. And the fingerprints seem to be working just fine. Yeah, no problems with fingerprints. You can see that the screen is crystal clear. Touch working perfectly fine. So now let's test out the privacy feature and see how that works with the tempered glass. So I'm going to put it all the way up to its maximum and we'll take a look. So if we take a look at the screen from the side, you can see that it darkens, and from the top. So it seems like the regular tempered glass screen protector has no effect with the use of the privacy screen, which is definitely good. And then let's take a closer look at the alignment of our screen here. So it looks like the screen is pretty well aligned. You can see all the corners of the camera, which tells me that the screen protector is not covering any part of the screen. And if we take a look at the screen from the side, we'll see if we have any light bleed here. And it looks like we have just a slight bit. You can see kind of in the corner there how the light comes through. It's not a lot, but it is there. And then let's see what the screen looks like as if we were looking at it through polarized sunglasses. Wow, that's pretty nice. And you can see that there is no rainbow effect. That's pretty incredible. So if you're going to be using polarized sunglasses with this screen protector, you're not going to see a rainbow effect at all. That is definitely good. And let's test out the use of our S Pen here. And the S Pen works perfectly fine with the screen protector. There's only a slight bit of resistance. Not bad at all. And it seems to be working perfectly fine with the screen protector. Now let's put it in a case to test out the case compatibility. And just so you know, this case is not made by SPIGEN. So if you're going to be using a different case that's not made by the same manufacturer, this will be a good test to see if it actually still fits. And this screen protector does look to be case friendly, because even with this case on it, there's still a slight gap at the bottom, the top, and even around the sides, but it's only very slight. And it just fits this case perfectly. There's no lifting, no bubbles. And then here's a little comparison of what the SPIGEN tempered glass screen protector looks like next to the Samsung in-display screen that does have an anti-reflective coating. So it seems like this screen protector is looking good so far. Now let's test out the durability with a drop and a scratch test. All right, so we're going to start off our test at 4 feet. 4 feet. So it doesn't seem like the screen protector is very durable because it did not withstand the 4-foot drop. So let's move on to the scratch test. So regular tempered glass starts to scratch at a Mohs hardness number 6. So we're going to start off our test with the number 5. Then we'll move on to number 6. And then finally number 7. And if we take a closer look, you can see that there are no scratches at the number 5. There are slight at a number 6 and deeper at a number 7. So it seems like this screen protector's scratch resistance is still standard for regular tempered glass, even though they state a 10H hardness. So installation for the screen protector was pretty easy. It also does seem to be case friendly. It works perfectly fine with the S Pen and the in-display fingerprint sensor. However, it does not seem very durable because it didn't withstand a 4-foot drop, and scratch resistance is standard for tempered glass. And then here we have RINKKE's Easy Slide Clear Tempered Glass. It's got an oleophobic coating, 9H hardness, and an easy installation. So we get 2 tempered glass screen protectors with an installation guide and 2 installation packets. So take your installation guide, making sure where it says top goes towards the camera on your phone. Just press this over the top of the phone like that. Then hold down on the sides of the guide in these 2 little grooves here and pull out the tab with your other hand. Wait for the screen protector to adhere totally to the screen, as you can see it's doing right now. It probably took about 30 seconds for it to totally adhere to my screen, and once that's done, we can lift up on our guide here. And we'll take a look at our installation. So I don't see any bubbles. Well, actually, there's a slight little bit, like a very small bubbles right at the bottom here. So really, I'm just going to take my squeegee and kind of run it along the edges here just to make sure that it's totally adhered to my screen here on the edges. And then we'll take a look again. Again, I don't really see any bubbles. It was just a little bit on the bottom corner here. Installation was pretty nice. It does have a slight gap all the way around the phone for case compatibility. And as far as the feel of the glass, super smooth, just like the glass that's on the phone. The edges are also rounded off, which is nice. And also this screen does not have an anti-reflective coating. As you can see from my studio lighting reflection in the glass, it's actually pretty bad. But touch is working perfectly fine, no issues. Again, it's nice and smooth. Let's test out our fingerprints. I do already have them registered in the phone, so let's see if they still work. And it took a couple tries. I might have to re-register. Yeah, so let's re-register my fingerprints in the phone, and we'll see what happens then. So it seems to be registering perfectly fine, no issues. All right, so we're done registering. So let's try this one more time. It should work a lot better now. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty quick, working fine. No issues. Okay, so because this is a full coverage screen protector, let's test out our facial recognition. Seems to be working as well. Yep, no issues there either. All right, let's take a look at our front camera here. Front camera looks nice and clear. Don't see any issues with that. And while we're here, let's take a look at the alignment of our screen. And if we take a look here, you can see all 4 corners of the screen here. So there shouldn't be any cutoff of your front. So we can see all 4 corners of the camera screen. So there shouldn't be any cutoff of your phone screen itself. And then let's take a look at the light bleed on the side here, if there even is any. And you can see that there is a slight bit of light bleed. Not bad. Again, if you're going to put your phone in a case, you're really not going to even see this at all. Let's test out our S Pen. And the pen seems to be working perfectly fine on the screen. There is a slight bit of resistance, but no issues to report. Now let's take a look at what the privacy display looks like on this screen here. So you can see that it's clear, and then twist it to the sides and the screen disappears. So no issues using your privacy screen. And let's take a look at the screen as if we're looking at it through polarized sunglasses. Sometimes we have issues with that. And it seems like there's no rainbow effect with the screen protector whatsoever. definitely a plus. That seems to be the trend for this year. And we'll put it in our RINGKE Onyx A case. Check out case compatibility. And I don't see any lifting, no bubbles. It seems like there's a slight gap on each one of the sides of the screen here and more of a gap on the top and the bottom. But it seems to fit the case pretty good, so it should be compatible with most cases. So everything's looking pretty good for this screen protector so far, so let's move on to the drop and the scratch test. All right, we're going to start off our test at 4 feet. Here we go at 5 feet. 6 feet. 7 feet. 8 feet. And that was in the same spot mistakenly. So you do have a little mark there, but it hasn't cracked the screen yet. Here we go for a max of 9 feet. And still no cracks. Okay, RINGKE, I'm impressed. If we look at the screen protector here, you can see that all 4 of the quadrants here got hit, and one actually got hit at least twice, and there's still no cracks. We just have this little marking underneath the glass. It's the glass is still smooth to the touch. I can't even feel that underneath. So not too bad. So let's move on to the scratch test. So regular tempered glass starts to scratch at a Mohs hardness number 6. So we're going to start off our test with a number 5. And we'll move on to a number 6. And then finally, number 7. And if we take a closer look at the screen here, you can see there are no scratches at the number 5. There are slight at a number 6 and about the same at a number 7. So scratch resistance is standard for tempered glass. So installation for the screen protector was really easy. It also does seem to be case friendly. It works perfectly fine with the in-display fingerprint sensor and the S Pen. The screen protector lasted past a 9-foot drop, and scratch resistance is standard for tempered glass. And then here we have the BENKS Glass Warrior tempered glass screen protector. This screen protector has an anti-reflective coating. It's anti-fingerprint. It has an enhanced impact resistance, and it's also full coverage. So we get one screen protector with an installation guide and an installation packet. So take your installation tray, making sure where it says top is going towards the camera on your phone. Just place this over the top of your phone like that. Press it down into place. Then hold down on the guide with one hand and pull out the large number 1 tab on the bottom here. Press down on the little white tab on the bottom of the tray, and the tempered glass should start to adhere to the phone up to about the middle. Once you can see the line stop moving, hold down on the guide and pull out the number 2 tab. And the phone should continue the rest of the way on the screen. Once that's done, we'll just lift up our installation tray and we'll take a look. So it does look like we have some little bubbles on the bottom here. You can see some bubbles here and this little kind of weird thing right here. So what I would recommend doing is if you have a plastic squeegee or even like a credit card, you can use that to try to get these bubbles out. And then just kind of run it along the edges of the screen protector to make sure it's down all the way. So if we take a look now, you can see that there is no bubbles, no lifting. It is also a full coverage screen protector. There's only a slight gap all the way around the edge for case compatibility. The edges are also rounded off. As far as touch, feels nice and smooth, just like the glass that's on the phone. And as far as fingerprint rejection, you can see on the screen that it does pick up some smudges right here, but because of the oleophobic coating, you can very easily just swipe those away with minimal effort. Typically, when I put my phone in my pocket, when I pull it back out, there's no more fingerprints. So now let's test out our fingerprint sensor. Now I've already registered my fingerprints in the phone, so let's see if they still work. So that worked. Let's try it again. So far, so good. Do it one more time. Fingerprints seem to be working fine. And if you are having problems with your fingerprints, just go back into settings, re-register them, and maybe even turn up the touch sensitivity for the screen. But you can see how nice and clear it is. Touch working fine, no issues there. And if we take a look at a side-by-side comparison, you can see the anti-reflectiveness of the BENKS versus the anti-reflective coating that's on the Samsung Galaxy S26 Ultra. Now let's test out our facial recognition. Working fine. Try it again. Yeah, working good so far too. And as far as our camera looks nice and clear as well. No issues there. Let's take a look at the alignment of the screen protector. And it looks like we can see all 4 of the corners on the screen. So it shouldn't be cutting off any part of your phone screen either. Let's take a look at the edges to see if there's any screen bleed from the sides here. And it doesn't seem like it. It's hard to tell. It's so light. But I don't think I see any edge bleed. Let's take a look at our privacy display. So if we look at the screen here, it's fine. And if we twist and turn, you can see that it just kind of disappears from the edges. That is awesome. So it's working fine with the in-display privacy screen. Let's test out our S Pen. And the S Pen seems to be working perfectly fine as well. Just a slight resistance, not bad at all. Now let's take a look at the screen as if we're looking at it through polarized sunglasses. And you can see that there is no rainbow effect at all. This year, it doesn't seem like there's a rainbow effect on any of these screen protectors. It might be because of the way that the screen is on the phone. I'm not really sure. But no rainbows this year. So let's put it into one of our BENKS cases here, test out the case compatibility. Can get a little wipe down. We got some smudges on the screen here. And if we take a closer look, it seems like it fits the case beautifully. Only a slight gap on the top and the bottom of the phone, and ever so slight on the edges. You can see there's no lifting, no bubbles. It just fits really well. So everything's looking pretty good so far. Now let's test out the durability with a drop and a scratch test. All right, so here we go at 4 feet. 4 feet. So unfortunately, this screen protector did not last past a 4-foot drop. So now let's move on to the scratch test. So regular tempered glass starts to scratch at a Mohs hardness number 6. So we're going to start off with a number 5. And we'll move on to a number 6. And then finally a number 7. And if we take a closer look here, you can see there are no scratches at the number 5. There are slight at a number 6 and about the same at a number 7. So scratch resistance is standard for tempered glass. So installation for the screen protector was really easy. It also does seem to be case friendly. It works perfectly fine with the in-display fingerprint sensor and the S Pen. Unfortunately, it didn't last much past a 4-foot drop, and scratch resistance is standard for tempered glass. And then here we have the DBRAND Prism 2.0 Clear Tempered Glass Screen Protector. So we get 2 tempered glass screen protectors with installation guides and an installation kit. Then take one of your screen protectors, making sure that the little triangle up here is going towards the camera on your phone, and just press this over the top of your phone like this. Hold down on the sides of the guide with one hand and pull out the little tab with the other. Then just slide your finger down the middle and wait about 30 seconds. Once that's done, we'll lift up on the guide and we'll take a look at our screen. And it does look like we have one little bubble in the corner here, so we'll just use our squeegee to kind of push that out. And then just run the squeegee down the edges of the screen protector to make sure it's down really well. And then we'll take a look. So it does look pretty nice. It's a full coverage screen protector. It only leaves a slight gap all the way around the phone for case compatibility. The edges are also rounded off. As far as touch, feels nice and smooth, just like the glass that's on the phone. And as far as fingerprint rejection, they say that there's supposed to be no fingerprints ever, but you can clearly see that there are smudges on the screen. But because of the oleophobic coating, you should just very easily be able to wipe those away, and you can. So now let's test out our fingerprints. I've already got them registered, so I just want to test to see if it still works. Typically, sometimes they won't work, but it seems like in this case, they are still working perfectly fine. But if you are having issues with your fingerprint sensor, just go back into the settings, re-register your fingerprints, and maybe even turn on the touch sensitivity for the screen as well. But everything seems to be working perfectly fine. Now let's test out our facial recognition. Yeah, facial recognition seems to be working perfectly fine as well. Yeah, no issues there. You can see the screen is crystal clear. No issues with touch. Let's take a look at our selfie camera. Selfie camera looks nice and clear. Don't see any issues there either because the screen does cover the front camera. Now, one thing you need to know is this screen protector does not have an anti-reflective coating, so you can clearly see that you really get a lot of glare with the screen. So sometimes it's a little hard to see the screen, especially if you're in a bright light like we are here. So that's just something to keep in mind. Now let's see what the screen looks like as if we were looking at it through polarized sunglasses. And you can see that there's no rainbow effect. That is awesome so far. So you don't have to worry about any rainbow effect if you're using polarized sunglasses. I like that because I wear polarized sunglasses all the time. Let's test out our S Pen. And the S Pen seems to be working perfectly fine on the screen here. There is a slight bit of resistance, which is typical for a glass screen. And it's working without any issues. Now let's take a closer look at the edge of the screen to see if we can see any screen bleed. And it looks like it might be like ever so slight if there is any. It's really hard to see. Let's test out the alignment of our screen. We take a look at the corners of our camera here. You can clearly see the edges of the screen here, so it doesn't seem like the screen protector cuts off any of your screen either. Now let's test out the case compatibility with the DBRAND tank case. Fits in the case perfectly, and it seems like there's only a slight gap around the bottom, just a very little bit on the edges and on the top. So this screen protector should be compatible with most cases, especially with the DBRAND. Fits perfectly. The less gap we have here, the better, because that's just more place for dust and dirt to collect. But you also don't want it so tight that you actually get lifting and bubbles out of the screen protector, which we do not have here. Everything looks great. And just for good measure, let's test it out with a non-DBRAND case. So here we got the mouse limitless case, and still it fits the case perfectly. Again, we still only get a slight gap on the bottom, on the edges, and on the top. So even if you're using this screen protector with a non-DBRAND case, you should still be good. So everything's looking really good for this screen protector so far. So let's test out the durability with a drop and a scratch test. So here we go at 4 feet. Moving on to 5 feet. 6 feet. 7 feet. Wow. 8 feet. So you can't see it, but we're gonna go up to 9 feet. Still nothing. That's incredible. So I wasn't able to crack the DBRAND tempered glass screen protector even at 9 feet. I think this is probably a new record. And if we take a look at the screen protector here, you can see these little dots here. That's exactly where the ball hit each time I hit the screen, and it still did not crack. That's pretty incredible. So let's move on to the scratch test. So like I said before, DBRAND says that their tempered glass screen protector starts to scratch at a Mohs hardness number 7, but we're going to start off our test with a number 5 here. Then I'll move to number 6, and then finally number 7. So if we take a closer look at our screen here, it looks like there are no scratches at the number 5. There are slight at a number 6 and even deeper at a number 7. So it seems like scratch resistance is pretty standard for tempered glass. So installation for this screen protector was pretty easy. There was a little bubble that we very easily got out. It also does seem to be case friendly. It works perfectly fine with the in-display fingerprint sensor and the S Pen. I still wasn't able to crack it even at a 9-foot drop, but scratch resistance seems to be pretty standard for regular tempered glass, even though DBRAND says it should only start scratching at a Mohs hardness number 7, but clearly we saw there are scratches at a 6. And then here we have the Magic John tempered glass screen protector. This is supposed to withstand an 8-foot drop, and it's got 9H hardness for scratch resistance. So we get 2 tempered glass screen protectors with an installation guide, and 2 installation packets with a squeegee. Then take your installation tray. We need to open up the one side just like this and put the phone inside the guide, and then press down with the wipe to make sure that it's firmly inside the installation guide. Then we'll use our dust sticker to remove any dust. Then we're going to put down the guide and press it into place, making sure that all 6 of these little fasteners snap. Then hold down the guide with one hand, and we're going to peel out this little tab with the other. Then we're going to wait 30 seconds for it to adhere. Then we need to lift up the guide and then press down on this plastic piece here to release it. Then lift up on the protector, and then you can take out your phone. And we'll take a look at the screen really quick. So I don't see any bubbles or lifting. There's no dust or anything. So installation was pretty seamless. I like that. It does seem to have a slight gap all the way around the phone for case compatibility, and the edges are also rounded off. The glass is nice and smooth, just like the glass that's on the phone. And as far as fingerprint smudges, it does seem to pick up smudges on the screen, as you can see, but we should be able to just very easily wipe those away, and we can with minimal effort. Now I have already registered my fingerprints in here, so we'll just see if they still work. And that seems to still work. Yep, no problem there. It's pretty quick. Yeah, fingerprints are working fine. Let's test out our facial recognition. Yeah, facial recognition working perfectly fine. Yep. Take a look at our selfie camera. Camera's nice and clear, no issues there because the glass does cover the camera. So we don't have any issues there. You can see the screen is nice and clear. Touch working perfectly fine. No problems. Now let's take a look at the screen as if we're looking at it through polarized sunglasses. And you can see that there is no rainbow effect. That seems to be the same for pretty much every screen protector I've tested so far. I like that because the rainbow can get annoying. Let's test out the alignment of our screen. Look at our camera here. And it looks like you can see all the corners of the camera, so it shouldn't cut off any part of your screen. And then if we take a look at our white image here, we can kind of look at the edges to see if there's any light bleed. And it does look like there's just a little bit. It's not horrible, but it does seem to be there. Let's test out our S Pen. S Pen working perfectly fine on the screen protector. There's a slight bit of resistance, which is typical. I don't see any issues. Looking pretty good. Now let's test out our case compatibility. This is the Mouse Limitless case, and it looks like there's a slight gap on the bottom here, on the top, and just a very little bit on the sides. So it should be compatible with most cases, and you can see here that the screen protector does not have any anti-reflective coating, so you will lose that on your phone screen. So everything about the screen protector is looking good so far. Now let's test out the durability with a drop and a scratch test. So here we go at 4 feet. Moving on to 5 feet. 6 feet. 7 feet. 7 feet. Alright, so this screen protector lasted up until a 7-foot drop. Not too bad, not too far away from the 8-foot claim. Now let's move on to the scratch test. So regular tempered glass starts to scratch at a Mohs hardness number 6. So we're going to start off our test with a number 5. Then we'll move on to a number 6. And then finally a number 7. And if we take a closer look, you can see there are no scratches at the number 5. There are slight at a number 6 and about the same at a number 7. So scratch resistance is standard for tempered glass. So installation for the screen protector was pretty easy and it came out flawless. It also does seem to work perfectly fine with the in-display fingerprint sensor and the S Pen. It doesn't have an anti-reflective coating, so you will lose that on your phone. It also does seem to be case friendly. It lasted up until a 7-foot drop, and scratch resistance is standard for tempered glass. And then here we have ESR's Ultra Fit Armorite Pro tempered glass screen protector. This is a clear tempered glass screen protector. It's got an anti-reflective coating, an oleophobic coating to help keep down fingerprints, and it's supposed to be 2 times more scratch resistant. So we get 3 tempered glass screen protectors with an installation guide and an installation packet with the squeegee. So the way that we set this up is you open up your installation guide, take one of your screen protectors, make sure that you line up the holes on the screen protector with the posts on the guide. Just press those into place until they're all the way down. Then you're going to take your phone and you're going to put it face down into the installation tray, just like this. Press it into place. Then close the installation tray. You're going to press down on the top of the installation guide with your hand and then just pull out the tab with the other. Open up our tray here, take out our phone. We'll take a look. And we do have a slight bubble at the top here. I don't know if you guys can see that right there. So we'll just take the little squeegee that we got with our installation kit, and we'll just kind of press that down to get that out. We'll just go around the edges. Gonna make sure that those are down as well, and we'll take a look. So installation was pretty easy, minus the little bubble that was on the top there, but installation other than that looks pretty good. There is a slight gap all the way around the screen for case compatibility. As far as the touch, feels nice and smooth, just like the glasses on the phone, and the edges also seem to be rounded off. As far as fingerprint rejection, it does pick up some slight smudges on the screen, but because of the oleophobic coating, you can wipe those away with minimal effort. So let's test out our fingerprints. I also do have them already registered, so we'll see if they still work. It says it doesn't match, so we'll re-register them. Let's see if our facial recognition works. Facial recognition working perfectly fine. Let's try it again. Yep, no issues there. As you can see, the screen is crystal clear. And this also does have an anti-reflective coating. So here is what the studio lighting looks on the screen. And here's a little side-by-side comparison of what the Galaxy S26 Ultra screen looks like next to the ESR Armorite. Okay. So we're all done. Let's test out our fingerprints again. So we had a little issue the first time. It seems to be working okay now. Yeah, okay. So no issues. It just seems like there was a little glitch there. Let's do it one more time just to make sure. Yeah, so it seems like it's working pretty good and pretty quick. You can also see the screen is crystal clear. No issues with touch. Let's check out our front camera. Front camera looks nice and clear. Don't see any issues there. Let's see how good the alignment is and if there's any light bleed. Seems like you can see all four of the corners of the camera in the screen, so there shouldn't be any cutoff there. Let's see if there's any light bleed from the side to check out our fitment. And it does seem like there's a little bit of light bleed from the edge of the glass. It's not bad, but it is there. And let's test out our S Pen. And the S Pen seems to be working fine on the screen here. Slight bit of resistance, just like regular tempered glass. So no issues there. And let's take a look at our screen as if we're looking at it through polarized sunglasses. And you can see that there is no rainbow effect. Let's check out our privacy screen. And you can see it's working perfectly fine with the screen protector as well. Very nice. And we'll put it in our ESR case to check out case compatibility. And it seems like there's a slight gap on the bottom, slight on the edges, and a little bit more on the top. So this screen protector should be compatible with most cases. No lifting, no bubbles, seems to fit pretty good. So everything's looking pretty good for the screen protector so far. So now let's move on to the scratch and the drop test. All right, we're going to start off our test at 4 feet. Moving on to 5 feet. Moving on to 6 feet. 7 feet. 8 feet. 9 feet. 9 feet. All right, this screen protector lasted up until a 9-foot drop. I'm pretty impressed. So now let's move on to the scratch test. So regular tempered glass starts to scratch at a most hardness number 6. So we're going to start off our test with a number 5. And we'll move on to a number 6. And then finally a number 7. And if we take a closer look here, you can see there are no scratches at the number 5. There are only slight at a number 6 and about the same at a number 7. So scratch resistance is still standard for tempered glass. So installation for the screen protector was pretty easy. We only had that little bubble at the top of the screen. It also does seem to be case friendly. It lasted perfectly fine with the in-display fingerprint sensor and the S Pen. It lasted up until a 9-foot drop, and scratch resistance is pretty standard for tempered glass, even though it is very light. And then here we have ESR's Ultra Fit Armorite Pro Privacy Tempered Glass Screen Protector. This is a full coverage screen protector. It has an oleophobic coating. It's supposed to be 2 times scratch resistant, and it has an easy installation guide. So we get 3 privacy screen protectors and an installation guide and an installation packet with a squeegee. So the way we set this up is open your installation guide, take one of your screen protectors, make sure you line up the holes with the screen protector with the post on the guide. Just press those into place until they're all the way down. Then take your phone. We're going to put it face down into the tray here. Just press that into place. Fold over the top tray and make sure that this little tab is out. Press your hand on the middle of the guide and pull out with your other hand. We'll open up our guide, take out our phone, and we'll take a look at our installation. So everything looks pretty good. Don't see any bubbles, no lifting, no dust. Seems to be a perfect installation. The edges of the screen are rounded off, and the glass is super smooth, just like the glass that's on your phone. As far as fingerprint rejection goes, it does pick up some slight smudges on the screen, but you can very easily wipe those away with minimal effort. And I also do have my fingerprints already registered in the phone, so we'll see if they still work. That worked. Let's try it again. That did not work, did not work, did not work. So we'll try re-registering our fingerprints. So it seemed to have a little bit of an issue putting my fingerprints into the phone. It's kind of not, yeah. All right, there we go. So just a little bit of an issue putting in my fingerprints. Let's see if they still work. That worked fine the first time. Let's try it again. That worked. That worked. One more time. Yeah, so they seem to be working fine now. Let's test out our facial recognition, which still should work because there's an actual like cutout for the front camera. Yeah, no issues there. You can see the screen is crystal clear. Touch working perfectly fine, no issues there. And then for the privacy screen, so this year the Galaxy S26 Ultra actually has an in-display privacy option, but you can get this privacy screen as well. And if we twist it to the left and the right, you can see the screen disappears, but it doesn't do anything up and down. It's only left and right, whereas the screen on the actual phone itself works 4-way. Let's turn that on and see what kind of effect that has with the privacy screen on here. So you can see it's still clear. If we turn it to the left and right, the screen disappears, and up and down, the screen disappears as well. So you can use a privacy screen on your Galaxy S26 Ultra without any issues if you want the double protection. You don't have to worry about turning the screen on and off. You can do that as well. So that seems to be working just fine. Now let's see if there's any screen cutoff due to the screen protector. And it looks like we can see all 4 of the corners of our camera here, so there shouldn't be any cutoff of your screen. And then let's see if there's any light bleed from the side here. You can see that there is a slight bit of screen bleed, not a lot, but it is there. Now let's test out our S Pen. And the S Pen seems to be writing just fine on the screen. No issues. It's just a slight bit of resistance. And let's take a look at the screen as if we're looking at it through polarized sunglasses. And you can see that there still is no rainbow effect. Seems like everybody has that fixed for this year. And we'll put our phone inside of our case to see how well it works with case compatibility. Gosh, team. Then we'll put our phone inside of our case to see how it works with case compatibility. And again, it seems like it fits this case pretty good. Only a slight gap on the sides, the bottom, and on the top. No lifting, no bubbles. So it should be compatible with most cases. So again, everything's looking pretty good so far with this screen protector. Now let's move on to the scratch and the drop test. All right, we're going to start off our test at 4 feet. Moving on to 5 feet. 6 feet. 7 feet. 8 feet. 8 feet. So this screen protector lasted up until a 8-foot drop, very respectable. Now let's move on to the scratch test. So regular tempered glass starts to scratch around a Mohs hardness number 6. So we're going to start off our test with a number 5. And we'll move on to a number 6. And finally a number 7. And if we take a closer look here, you can see that there are no scratches at the number 5. There are slight at a number 6 and about the same at a number 7. So scratch resistance seems to be pretty standard for tempered glass. So installation for this screen protector was pretty easy. It also does seem to be case friendly. It works perfectly fine with the in-display fingerprint sensor and the S Pen, along with the privacy option. It lasted up until a 8-foot drop, and scratch resistance is standard for tempered glass. And then here we have a tempered glass screen protector by BODYGUARDZ. This screen protector is supposed to convert harmful blue light into healthier red light, which is supposed to be better for your skin and overall wellness. So we get one tempered glass screen protector with a guide and an installation packet, which includes a squeegee. So take your installation tray, making sure where it says top is going towards the camera on your phone, and just press it down over the top of your phone like that. Hold down on the guide with one hand, pull out the tab with the other. Slide your finger down the middle of the screen. Remove the guide. And we'll take a look. So the screen protector does have a red tinge to it. We also have a couple bubbles on the middle of the screen, which I'll push out with our squeegee. Wait till you see this. It looks so cool from the way that I'm looking at it. So the screen does have a red tint to it. If you turn it to the side, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's like a dark cherry red from what I can tell on my end. I don't know if the camera is showing as much as it is, but this screen protector looks really red. Like you can kind of, there you go. So you can see from the side here, that's what the screen looks like through the whole screen when I'm looking at it kind of like on an angle from the side, but you can definitely see how red the screen is. So we're going to see if that affects the clarity or not. It really shouldn't. But as far as the coverage goes, it's pretty much a full coverage screen protector. We just have a cutout for our camera and a slight gap around the screen for case compatibility. As far as touch, nice and smooth, just like the glass that's on the phone, and the edges are also rounded off. As far as fingerprint rejection, it does seem to pick up some slight smudges on the screen, but we should be able to just wipe those away very easily. Yeah, minimal effort, very nice. Now let's test our fingerprint sensor. I've already registered my fingerprints, so let's see if they still work. So that's working fine. No issues there again. Yep, fingerprints are working fine. If you're having issues with your fingerprints, just go into your settings, re-register your fingerprints, and maybe even turn on the touch sensitivity for your screen, and you shouldn't have an issue. But you can see, even though the screen was red, that it really doesn't, I don't see any red tint to the screen. It looks nice and clear. So the screen just looks red. It looks really cool, but you shouldn't have any issues with viewing when you're looking at your screen. Now let's take a look at the screen as if we were looking at it through polarized sunglasses. And you can see that there is no rainbow effect on the screen, which is definitely a plus. Let's test out our S Pen. And it doesn't seem to have any issues writing on the screen. It has a slight resistance to it, just like most of the tempered glass screen protectors. Now let's take a look at the alignment of the screen itself. And you can pretty much see all the corners of the screen here. So nothing should be cut off. And if we look at the edge to see if there's any screen bleed, you can see that there's just a very slight bit, not a lot at all. Nothing really to be concerned about, especially if you're going to be putting your phone inside of a case. Then let's see what it does with the in-display privacy screen. So you can see the screen now, if we twist it, the screen still disappears. That looks so cool. But I don't see any issues with the screen. Now let's put our phone inside of our case to test out the case compatibility. And if we take a look at the screen, it looks to fit pretty good. This is a BODYGUARDZ case, in case you're wondering. The Performance Pro. There is a slight gap all the way around the screen, so it should be compatible with most cases. No lifting, no bubbles. That red tint is really starting to grow on me. I kind of like it. So everything's looking pretty good so far for the screen protector. Now let's move on to the scratch and the drop test. And then before I put the screen down for the drop test, again, you can see how it's got kind of like that red tint to it. That looks really cool. And let's see what happens when I shine blue light through the back of the screen, if it actually comes out to be red. Wow, that is pretty cool. So that's blue light being shined onto the screen protector. You can see kind of like right there. And then we put it in front and you can see how it converts it into a red light. That is pretty cool. All right, we're starting off our drop test at 4 feet. Moving on to 5 feet. 6 feet. 6 feet. All right, so this screen protector lasted up until a 6-foot drop. Now let's move on to the scratch test. So regular tempered glass starts to scratch at a Mohs hardness number 6. So we're going to start off our test with a number 5. Then we'll move on to number 6. And then finally, number 7. So if we take a closer look, you can see there are no scratches at the number 5. I don't really see any scratches at the number 6. And at the number 7, you can see that there are some pretty good scratches. So scratch resistance seems to be a little bit better than regular tempered glass. So installation for the screen protector was pretty easy, although there was a couple bubbles. It seems to work perfectly fine with the in-display fingerprint sensor and the S Pen. It does seem to be case friendly. It lasted up until a 6-foot drop, and scratch resistance seems to be a little bit better than regular tempered glass. And as a little bonus, we have the BODYGUARDZ rear camera protectors. These are also made from tempered glass, so we're going to be doing a scratch test on this. These lenses are black and should go pretty good with pretty much any color phone that you get. It also has this little built-in removal tool in case you do have to remove the lenses. So you get one set of lenses and you also get some installation wipes. So the first thing we want to do is to thoroughly, then once you have your lenses cleaned off, just make sure that you put the guide in line with the way that the camera lenses are on the back of your phone. So pretty much just like this. We'll peel off the back protector. And then just simply press this down over the top of your lenses and press on each lens just to make sure that it's stuck down pretty good. And then just simply lift up on the guide and your camera lens protectors are all installed. It doesn't really add a lot of extra bulk to the back of the phone either, which is nice. And they look like they were meant to be there. I think that looks pretty good with the purple version of the S26 Ultra. Looks really nice. Let's take a look at our camera here. And here is the rear camera. Looks nice and clear. Don't see any issues with the use of the lenses. Let's see, we can focus in really closely and it's still nice and clear. So there shouldn't be any issues using these camera covers on the back of your phone. Let's see how they do with fingerprints. And they do seem to keep down the fingerprints as well. Only minor slight smudges. I almost really can't even see them, and you might not even be able to either on camera. So that's pretty nice. I think these look pretty cool. So let's test out the scratch resistance. So we'll start off with our number 5, then move on to a number 6, then finally number 7. And if we take a closer look here, you can see there are no scratches at the number 5. There are slight at a number 6 and a little bit deeper at a number 7. So scratch resistance is standard for tempered glass here. And again, if for any reason you need to remove these lenses, you just simply use your tool, just kind of put this underneath the lens and then kind of push up with it and they'll pop right off. And here they are all removed and you can see they don't leave behind any residue either. And then here we have a clear tempered glass screen protector by BODYGUARDZ. This is supposed to be 5 times stronger than an unprotected screen. It's got lifetime replacements. It's got an antimicrobial coating and but it does not have an anti-reflective screen. So we get one tempered glass screen protector with an installation guide and an installation packet, which includes a squeegee. So take your installation tray, making sure where it says top is going towards the camera on your phone, and just press it over the top of your phone. Then hold down on the guide with one hand and pull out the tab with the other. Then slide your finger up the middle. Remove the guide. And we'll take a look at our screen. So it does look like we do have a couple bubbles in the middle of the screen there, and I'll just use the squeegee to kind of push those out. Go around the edges a little bit. And we'll take a look. So I was able to get those bubbles out pretty easily. This is also almost a full coverage screen protector. It doesn't cover your camera on the top, and it's got a slight gap all the way around the screen for case compatibility. The edges are also rounded off. As far as the feels nice and smooth, just like the glass that's on the phone. And as far as fingerprint rejection, it does pick up some slight smudges on the screen, but because of the oleophobic coating, you can very easily just wipe those away. Now, I already have my fingerprints registered in the phone, so we'll see if they still work. So that works fine. No problems there. One more time here. There you go. No problems with fingerprints. If you do have any issues, just re-register them and maybe turn up the touch sensitivity on your screen. You can also see that the screen is crystal clear. Touch working fine. No issues there. Now we can also see that this screen does not have an anti-reflective coating, so there is quite a bit of reflection on the screen if you're in a brightly lit room or outside in the sun. And let's take a look at the screen as if we're looking at it through polarized sunglasses. And you can see that there is, again, no rainbow effect when you twist and turn the phone. Let's see how the screen works with the S Pen. Yeah, working fine. Only a little bit of resistance. S Pen working well. Now let's see our in-display privacy screen. See, the screen looks nice and clear, and then when we twist and turn it, it kind of disappears. I'm curious to know what this screen looks like as if you were looking at it through polarized sunglasses. And still no rainbow effect, but it does disappear. So we'll turn that off. Then we'll take a look at the screen alignment here. So it looks like you can see all four of the corners on the camera here, so there shouldn't be any cutoff of your screen. And if we take a look at the white here, see if there's any edge bleed. And you can see that there is a very slight bit. Not really a big deal, especially if you're going to put your phone in a case. And we'll put our phone inside of our BODYGUARDZ case to check out case compatibility. And it looks like there's a slight gap on the top, the bottom, and ever so slight on the sides. So the screen protector should work with other cases as well. No issues, no bubbles, no lifting. Very nice. So looking good so far for the screen protector. Now let's move on to the scratch and the drop test. All right, we're going to start off our test at 4 feet. Moving on to 5 feet. 6 feet. Still no crack. It makes like a little mark, but it still has not cracked. 7 feet. 7 feet. All right, so this screen protector lasted up until a 7-foot drop. There were a couple like marks where the 5-foot and 6-foot were, but it didn't crack and it didn't make anything that I could feel, so I kept going. So officially, it lasted up until a 7-foot drop. So now let's move on to the scratch test. So regular tempered glass starts to scratch at a Mohs hardness number 6, so we're going to start off our test with a number 5. Then we'll move on to a number 6. And finally, number 7. And if we take a closer look, you can see that there are no scratches at the number 5. There are slight at a number 6 and about the same at a number 7. So scratch resistance is standard for tempered glass. So again, installation for the screen protector was pretty easy, although there were a few bubbles that I had to push out. It seems to work perfectly fine with the in-display fingerprint sensor and the S Pen. It does also seem to be case friendly. It lasted up until a 7-foot drop, and scratch resistance is standard for tempered glass. And then here we have SMARTDEVIL's tempered glass screen protector. This is a clear protector, and it's also got an oleophobic coating with an easy installation tray. So we get 3 tempered glass screen protectors with an installation guide and an installation packet. So take your installation tray, making sure where it says top is going towards the camera on your phone, and just press this over the top like that. Then hold down on the guide with one hand. We're going to pull out the sticker with the other. Keep your hand on the installation tray for maybe about 10 seconds so it can finish installing on the screen. Then we're going to lift up on our guide here. And we'll take a look at our installation. So I don't see any bubbles, no lifting. Looks really nice. The edges are also rounded off. We do have a slight gap all the way around the phone for case compatibility. And you can also see that the screen does not have an anti-reflective coating, as you can see the reflection pretty bad from my studio lighting. As far as the touch, super smooth, just like the glass that's on the phone. As far as fingerprint rejection, it does seem to do a pretty good job at keeping down fingerprints, only slight smudges on the screen. So I already have my fingerprints registered in the phone, so let's see if they still work. That seems to still work. Yeah, so they're still working. If you are having problems with your fingerprints, just go into settings, re-register your fingerprints, and maybe turn up the touch sensitivity of your screen. You can see the screen is nice and clear. Touch working fine, no issues there. This is a full coverage camera, so let's test out our facial recognition. I'm sorry, I might have said that this is a full coverage camera. So this is a full coverage screen protector. And the facial recognition seems to be working just fine. Let's take a look at our front camera here. Front camera nice and clear, no issues there. Let's take a look at our alignment. And you can see all four of the corners of the screen without any issues, so that it shouldn't be cutting off any part of your phone screen. And then let's see if there's any light bleed from the edges of the glass here. And there is just ever so slight, not bad at all. Let's test out our S Pen. S Pen working well on the screen, no issues. And there is a slight bit of resistance. Not bad at all. Let's test out the privacy screen here. So if we turn it to the right and the left, the screen disappears and it still works perfectly fine. And let's see what the screen looks like as if we're looking at it through polarized sunglasses. And I don't see any rainbow. Very nice. And let's put it in our case to test out the case compatibility here. And I don't see any bubbles, no lifting. And it pretty much comes right up to the bottom of the case along with the sides. And there's only a slight gap on the top here. So because this is so tight, it might not work with every case, but for the majority of the cases, it should be okay. You're just going to have to try it out. So everything's looking pretty good for the screen protector so far. Now let's move on to the scratch and the drop test. All right, so we're going to start off our test at 4 feet. Moving on to 5 feet. 6 feet. 7 feet. 8 feet. 9 feet. That's crazy. All right, so I wasn't able to crack this screen protector either. And if we look a little closer here, you can see that each quadrant had the little marks that I made from each drop. And this one made even less marks than what the RINGKE did. So this might be a little bit better. So let's move on to the scratch test. So regular tempered glass starts to scratch at a Mohs hardness number 6. So we're going to start off our test with a number 5. Then we'll move on to a number 6. And then finally a number 7. And if we take a closer look, you can see there are no scratches at the number 5. There are slight at a number 6 and a little bit deeper at a number 7. So scratch resistance is standard for tempered glass. So installation for the screen protector was really easy. There weren't any bubbles after we got done with the install. It also might be case friendly with most cases because it came like right up to the case that we were using on 3 of the edges. So it may or may not be case compatible with the case you're going to use. You're just going to have to try it out. It does seem to work perfectly fine with the in-display fingerprint sensor and the S Pen. It withstood a 9-foot drop, and scratch resistance is standard for tempered glass. And then here we have the ZAGG XTR5 InvisiShield tempered glass screen protector. It's supposed to be 11 times stronger than regular tempered glass, and it's also got a blue light filter. So we get one tempered glass screen protector that's already installed into this installation tray and some installation tools. So the way that this works is you take your installation tray, you don't have to do anything to it, you just simply take your phone and put it face down into the tray, just press it into place. Then take the other top side here. You want to place this over the top of your guide, press it down. Then you're going to hold down on the guide with one hand, pull out the tab with the other. Then press down on the ZAGG logo in the middle for 5 seconds. Then you're going to remove the top cover. Take out our phone here. And we'll take a look at our installation. So installation looks pretty good. There's only like a slight bubble at the bottom here. And that is about it. So I'm going to take our little... So I'm going to take a squeegee and just kind of run it along the edges here to kind of get rid of that little bubble. You can also use your finger if you want. Take a look again. Bubble is gone. The edges are also rounded off. There's a cutout for your camera as well. Glass feels nice and smooth, just like the glass that's on the phone. There is also a slight gap around the phone for case compatibility. Let's test out our fingerprint rejection. It does seem to pick up some slight smudges on the screen, but it's got an oleophobic coating, so you can just easily wipe those away with minimal effort. So I already have my fingerprints registered into the phone, so let's test that out. So it worked that one time. Again. So it doesn't like that one angle of my fingerprint. So it seemed to work about 99% of the time. If you are having problems with your fingerprints working, just go and re-register them and turn up the touch sensitivity on your phone and you should not have any issues. You can also see the screen is crystal clear, touch working fine. The screen protector also does not have an anti-reflective coating, so you can see the reflection in my studio lighting pretty bad. And the screen protector also had a slight blue tinge to it before the installation, but I don't see it interfering with any of the white coloring on the screen. I think it still looks pretty good. Let's test out our S Pen. S Pen working fine on the screen protector, only a slight bit of resistance. No problems there. Let's check our screen alignment and light bleed. So it seems like we can see all 4 of the corners of the screen, so there shouldn't be any cutoff. And as far as the light bleed on the side here, it seems like there's only a very slight bit of light bleed, so not bad at all. Let's test out the privacy feature. You can see it still works perfectly fine with the screen protector. So no issues there. And then let's see what the screen looks like as if we're looking at it through polarized sunglasses. And you can see that there is no rainbow. Now let's put it in our case. And it looks like there's still a slight gap around the phone, more so on the bottom and on the top of the screen, not so much on the edges, but I don't see any bubbles or lifting. So the screen protector should be compatible with most cases. So not too bad so far. So let's move on to the scratch and the drop test. All right, we're going to start off our test at 4 feet. Moving on to 5 feet. So there is a mark, but I don't think it cracked the screen. So we're going to continue on. Moving on to 6 feet. 6 feet. So I'm not really sure that I believe the 11 times stronger tempered glass because it only lasted up until a 6-foot drop. But either way, let's move on to the scratch test. So regular tempered glass starts to scratch at a Mohs hardness number 6. So we're going to start off our test with a number 5. We'll move on to a number 6. And then finally, a number 7. And if we take a closer look, you can see that there are no scratches at the number 5. There are slight at a number 6 and about the same. Wait a minute. Hold on. Let's, I just want to wipe down this screen real quick because it looks like there might be some scratches at the number 5, which is not usual. I'm sorry for the blurriness. The camera's not focusing in. So I just wiped off the number 5 area. So we're going to look at it one more time here. And it looks like there is some slight scratches at the number 5. So scratch resistance for this tempered glass is even less than regular tempered glass. So installation for the screen protector was pretty easy. It also does seem to be case friendly. It seemed to work most of the time with the fingerprint sensor. I didn't re-register my fingerprints, so there is just a slight bit of room for error there, but it did work perfectly fine with the S Pen. The screen protector only lasted up until a 6-foot drop, and scratch resistance seems to be less than regular tempered glass. And then here we have ULTRAGLASS's clear tempered glass screen protector. This has an oleophobic coating, it's scratch resistant, and it also has the easy installation guide. So we get 2 tempered glass screen protectors with an installation guide and a couple installation packets with a squeegee. So take your installation guide, making sure where it says top is going towards the camera on the phone, and just press it over the top of your phone like that. Hold on to the guide with one hand, and we're going to pull out the tab with the other. We're going to wait 3 or 4 seconds for the screen to totally adhere to the top of your phone. The screen protector might stop like it has on my screen. If it does, you can use the squeegee to kind of help it along a little bit. And we'll take off our guide. And we'll take a look at our installation. So installation looks pretty good. I don't see any bubbles or lifting. This is also a full coverage screen protector, so it does cover your camera on the top. The edges are also rounded off. As far as touch, silky smooth, just like the glass that's on your phone. As far as fingerprint rejection, seems to do a pretty good job at rejecting fingerprints. Only very minor smudges on the screen. Let's test out our fingerprint sensor. So it seems to be doing a pretty good job. There's only a couple times where it missed because I didn't have my finger in the right spot, but for the most part it is working. If you are having any issues with your fingerprints, just go in, re-register them, and turn the touch sensitivity up on your screen. As you can see, the screen is also crystal clear, touch working perfectly fine. Let's test out our facial recognition. Facial recognition working perfectly fine as well. Let's take a look at the screen as if we're looking at it through polarized sunglasses. And you can see that there is no rainbow effect. Very nice. Let's take a look at our front camera. Front camera looks nice and clear, no issues there. Let's look at our alignment of our screen. And it seems like you can see all 4 of the corners of your screen, so there should be no cutoff. And we'll see if there's any light bleed on the edges here. And it seems like there's a very little bit. You can kind of see that green color at the top. But not too bad. Let's test out our S Pen. S Pen working well with the screen. There seems like the resistance seems like it's a little bit more than regular, but the S Pen is still working perfectly fine with the screen. Let's take a look at our privacy option. And you can see the screen works perfectly fine. No issues there. And I'm going to go in and just re-register my fingerprints anyway, just to kind of see how it registers, or rather how well it registers my fingerprints. Because some screen protectors don't work really well. So those went in pretty easy, and then we'll test out our fingerprints just one more time here. I turned on the screen because I don't want any missed fingerprint readings, because if I accidentally put it in the wrong spot and it looks like it didn't register, it's going to look bad for the screen protector, and it's not going to be a very accurate representation. That's why I kind of turned the little fingerprint sensor on first, but it seems to be working like 100% now. Yeah, no problems there. Then we'll put it in our case. And I don't see any lifting or bubbles. The screen protector seems to come almost up to the edge of the case itself all the way around. There's only a very slight gap. So even though this does work with this case, it may not work with some other cases. You're just going to have to try it out. But when the screen protector comes that close to the edges of the case, there is room for it to possibly lift and bubble with some cases, but again, you're just going to have to test it out. I personally like when there's no gap, but again, it's when the screen protector is like that, it's more likely that it may not work with all cases. So everything's looking pretty good so far for the screen protector. So now let's move on to the scratch and the drop test. All right, we're going to start off our test at 4 feet. Moving on to 5 feet. 6 feet. 6 feet. So this screen protector only lasted up until a 6-foot drop. Definitely not the best, but let's move on to the scratch test. So regular tempered glass starts to scratch at a Mohs hardness number 6, so we're going to start off our test with the number 5. And we'll move on to a number 6. And then finally number 7. And if we take a closer look here, you can see that there are no scratches at the number 5. There are slight at a number 6 and a little deeper at a number 7. So scratch resistance is standard for tempered glass. So installation for the screen protector was pretty easy. It also may or may not be case friendly with most cases, but it does work perfectly fine with the in-display fingerprint sensor and the S Pen. It only lasted up until a 6-foot drop, and scratch resistance is standard for tempered glass. And then here we have WSKEN's clear tempered glass screen protector. So we get 2 clear tempered glass screen protectors with an installation guide and an installation packet with a squeegee. So for this installation, all you need to simply do is take your phone and place it face down into the tray here. Just press it into place. Make sure that this little tab is folded out. Close the top of the guide. Press down in the middle with one hand and pull out the sticker with the other. We'll open up our guide here. We'll take out our phone. And it did look like there is some bubbles on the screen. One of which is disappearing, but we still have one at the top here. So we'll just simply use our squeegee to kind of push that out. And then we'll just run it across the edges of the screen and we'll take a look. So the few bubbles that were there did go away. We still do have some sort of little bubbling right here in the corner. So I'll try to use the squeegee to kind of get that out. All right. So no more bubbles, no dust. The edges are also rounded off, so that's pretty nice. Glass feels super smooth, just like the glass that's on the phone. As far as fingerprint rejection, it does pick up some smudges on the screen, but because of the oleophobic coating, you can very easily just wipe those away. And I do also have my fingerprints registered in the phone already, so we'll see if those still work. Try that again. So it seems like it's having some issues, so we'll just go in and re-register our fingerprints. It says that the sensor is dirty. I'm not sure why. I just wiped off the screen. Try this again. Okay. All right, so fingerprints are registered. We'll try this again. Seems to be working much better now. Yeah. So no issues with fingerprints. Let's test out our facial recognition. And facial recognition seems to be working perfectly fine as well. Yeah, no problems. You can see the screen is crystal clear. Touch working fine without any issues. Let's take a look at our camera for alignment. Screen looks nice and clear. Don't see any issues there. We can clearly see all four corners of the screen here, so there shouldn't be any cutoff of your screen. Let's see if there's any light bleed. Just a very slight bit. Not a lot. Again, if you're putting it in a case, you're not going to really even see that at all. Let's take a look at the screen as if we're looking at it through polarized sunglasses. And again, no rainbow. Very nice. Let's test out the use of our S Pen here. Let's test out our S Pen. And S Pen working fine with the screen. There is a little bit of resistance, but it's working perfectly fine. Let's take a look at our privacy option. And privacy screen working fine with this as well. And let's put it in our case. And the screen protector does seem to have a slight gap still all the way around the screen, mostly on the top and the bottom, just a little bit on the sides. So the screen protector should be compatible with most cases. The screen protector also does have an anti-reflective coating, so here you can see a side-by-side shot of how good the anti-reflectiveness is versus what was on the S26 Ultra screen originally. So everything's looking pretty good for the screen protector so far, so now let's move on to the scratch and the drop test. All right, we're going to start off our test at 4 feet. Moving on to 5 feet. 6 feet. 6 feet. Okay, so this screen protector only lasted up until a 6-foot drop. Now let's move on to the scratch test. So regular tempered glass starts to scratch at a Mohs hardness number 6, so we're going to start off our test with a number 5. Then we'll move on to a number 6. And finally a number 7. And if we take a closer look, you can see that there are no scratches at the number 5. They're only light at a number 6 and about the same at a number 7. So scratch resistance is pretty standard for tempered glass. So installation for the screen protector was pretty easy, although there were a few bubbles. It seems to work well with the in-display fingerprint sensor and the S Pen. It also seems to be case friendly. It only lasted up until a 6-foot drop, and scratch resistance is standard for tempered glass. And then here we have a clear matte tempered glass screen protector by WSKEN. So we get 2 tempered glass screen protectors with an installation tray and some installation wipes with the squeegee. So first open up your tray and put your phone inside the guide, just like that. Then you can use your wipe to kind of press it down into place. Then take one of your screen protectors and you're going to put this little rubber nub into this little hole at the top here. Just kind of press that into place. Then put down the rest of the guide here, making sure that the little posts on the installation tray go into the holes on the guide here. Just press those into place. Then close your tray. Hold down on the tray with one hand, pull out with the tab on the other. Then open up the guide and we're going to pull this out over the top of our phone. You're going to hold down on the back of the tray and then push it back. And then take off the top protector. And then we can take out our phone. And if we take a look at our installation here, installation looks pretty good. The screen protector is super smooth. The edges are also rounded off. There is also a slight gap around the phone for case compatibility. I don't see any bubbles, no lifting. And as far as fingerprint rejection, it does a great job at that because we have a matte finish. Now let's test out our fingerprints. And fingerprints still seem to be working fine. If you are having issues with your fingerprints, just go into the settings, re-register your fingerprints, and maybe turn up the touch sensitivity on your screen. Everything else looks great. Touch working beautifully, nice and smooth. And you can see that matte finish kind of keeps down that glare. Very nice. And let's test out our facial recognition. It seems to be working just fine. We do have a little cutout for our camera here. And we'll take a look at our front screen. Nice and clear. No issues there. Let's take a look at the alignment. And you can clearly see all four corners of the phone screen, so it shouldn't be cutting anything off. And we'll take a look at the alignment to see if there's any screen bleed. And there is just a little bit on the edge. Not horrible, but it is there. Now let's test out our S Pen. S Pen working fine on the screen. It does have kind of like a little bit of a texture to it with a slight bit of resistance. Pretty interesting, but it works perfectly fine. And let's test out our privacy screen to see what that does. So the screen looks nice and clear. We'll turn it to the side. And you can see that the screen does disappear. So that's working perfectly fine too. Very nice. I really love the way that this feels. The matte finishes always are super smooth. They're like smoother than any of the glass, even the glass that comes on the phone itself. It's just super smooth. It's one of the reasons why I love the matte finish. Then we'll take a look at the screen as if we're looking at it through polarized sunglasses. And you can still see that there is no rainbow effect. Now let's put this in our case. And it looks like there's a slight gap on the edges and the bottom. Most of the gap is on the very top here, but not too bad. It should be compatible with most cases. Looks pretty nice. Yeah, so everything's looking really good so far for the screen protector. So now let's move on to the scratch and the drop test. All right, we're going to start off our test at 4 feet. 4 feet. So unfortunately, it doesn't seem like the drop protection is really that great on matte tempered glass because it didn't even withstand a 4-foot drop. So now let's move on to the scratch test. So regular tempered glass starts to scratch at a Mohs hardness number 6, so we're going to start off our test with a number 5. Then we'll move on to a number 6. And then finally, a number 7. And if we take a closer look, you can see that there are some scratches at the number 5. They're slight at a number 6 and about the same at a number 7. So scratch resistance is actually worse than regular tempered glass. So installation for the screen protector was pretty easy. It also does seem to be case friendly. It seems to work perfectly fine with the in-display fingerprint sensor and the S Pen, but unfortunately it doesn't have really good drop protection because it did not last past the 4-foot drop, and scratch resistance seems to be worse than regular tempered glass. If you made it this far in the video, congratulations and thank you everybody for all your support. Now do me a favor and leave me the comment 4-foot gang. That way I'll know who made it and who didn't, and it also helps confuse the people that didn't make it, so when they see the comment, they don't know what we're talking about. Now I'm going to go over the screen protectors that were the absolute best out of all the ones we've tested in this video. And the first screen protector up on this list is ESR's Armorite Pro Privacy Tempered Glass Screen Protector. Now, I'm not sure why you'd want to put a privacy screen protector on a phone that already has a privacy feature, but it is what it is, and I just want to make sure that everybody's aware. This screen protector did really well in the drop test. It lasted up to an 8-foot drop. It's got regular scratch protection as regular tempered glass would. It had an easy installation, and funny enough, it works perfectly fine with the in-display privacy screen on the Galaxy S26 Ultra. Now we're moving on to the clear tempered glass screen protectors that do not have an anti-reflective coating. And all three of these screen protectors lasted more than a 9-foot drop. I couldn't actually crack either one of these screen protectors. So drop protection is excellent on all three of these. There was only a few little minor things that kind of made each one of these screen protectors stand out more than the other. The DBRAND scratch resistance seemed to be ever so slightly better than these other two. It still scratched at a number 6, but it was very light. So the first screen protector that I would recommend would be the DBRAND Prism 2.0. Again, this screen protector lasted more than a 9-foot drop. I could not crack it. Now, the only thing I was disappointed with the DBRAND was the fact that on their website they said that their tempered glass scratched at a Mohs hardness number 7, but in my testing it actually scratched at a number 6, which is standard for tempered glass. But installation was a breeze. You get 2 tempered glass screen protectors with installation guides. Installation was very easy as well, no bubbles, no dust, and it fit perfectly with the DBRAND cases. Next up would be the tempered glass screen protector by SMARTDEVIL. This screen protector also had a flawless installation, and for the drop test, I was not able to crack it, which means that it withstood a 9-foot ball drop. Scratch resistance was also standard for tempered glass with medium scratches. And then lastly, we have the RINGKE Easy Slide. This screen protector, again, I was not able to crack it. It withstood a 9-foot ball drop. Installation was pretty easy. There was only very slight bubbles in one of the corners. It is a 2-pack and it's very easy to install with its installation guides. And scratch resistance was standard for tempered glass with medium scratches. And then for the absolute best tempered glass screen protector for the Galaxy S26 that actually has an anti-reflective coating is the FLOLAB ONETIME Pro. If you missed it in the beginning of the video, this is one of my most favorite tempered glass screen protectors, and it's also one of my go-tos whenever I get a brand new phone. Because if you didn't already know, if your phone has an anti-reflective coating on it and you don't use a tempered glass screen protector that also has an anti-reflective coating, you will lose that feature. This screen protector was very easy to install with its installation guide, and it's also full coverage. And the anti-glare on this screen protector is just as good, if not better, than the one that comes on the Galaxy S26 Ultra. This screen protector also lasted past a 9-foot drop. I couldn't actually crack it. And its scratch resistance seems to be a little bit better than regular tempered glass. And the reason I say this is because when the screen got scratched, even at a Mohs 6, the scratches were super light. You really couldn't even see it, which is a lot different than some of the other tempered glass screen protectors that don't have an anti-reflective coating. So if you don't already know, this is the one screen protector that's going to be on my personal phone and the one I would recommend most to anybody who's looking to protect their Galaxy S26 Ultra screen. Now, I tried to pick out all the best tempered glass screen protector brands out there, but if there was a screen protector that you didn't see in this video that you'd like to recommend for future videos, let me know in the comments below. And I'm also curious to know what your favorite screen protector was of all the ones I've tested in this video. Don't forget about the product links in the video description, and if you guys enjoyed this video, please let me know by hitting the like button and consider subscribing. Thank you all for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.